I love you.
Hey, 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 welcome
Good
back
morning.
to the second episode of Energetic Casual Tea with Starlight Starla, and myself, Farrah. We're back to chat, have a cup of tea, get cozy, get comfy, all things energy, all things that are happening. How are you this morning, beautiful Starla?
I'm feeling fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you again so much for having me on. Really quick before we dive in, I feel like there's so much in my mind this morning, but I got a lot of really good feedback from last week. I hope you did as well. Um,
Awesome.
I, a lot of my friends, family, extended people are fascinated by this time that we're in, and I think I spoke with you a day or two ago about just I have all of this what I'm calling undefined energy. You can feel
Yeah.
the energy, it's ramping up, there's all this anticipation, and yet it is very, very difficult to put your finger on which way things are going to go. And I'm speaking about the election, of course, here in the United States. So how are you feeling?
So, well, you know me personally, and you know me, I also share personally. You had a lot of breakdown energy. I actually did an amazing walk meditation this morning because last night I just, yeah, my, for those who know me, know my journey this year's been tough. Single mom, Baba, all the financial load, all the
Yes.
time load, and it's a lot. And I don't have my family living close by. So, yeah, I had a bit of a cracking moment last night, which is amazing because it always allows us to then come with like a bit of a raw, open heart. And on my walk this morning, I was kind of asking, so what is going on with the energy? And so what came through, and I really hope I can articulate this properly and not sound like a total loon. Um, there, as I was shown, there is this. So let me gather my thoughts to try and explain this properly. So reality is shifting. There's like it's glitching, okay? So the best way I
Oh,
can describe it is if you look at a glass bowl and it's got cracks in it. So
mhm.
this is what needs to happen. The laws of our physical reality are even changing. It's there's a changeover, and I did speak about the eclipse in April and this consciousness stream and how it's going to take a year to fully land and ground, and into April next year. Oh, I mean, it's not just boom, 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 cut and dry. You know, these things all
Right.
sort of cycle and flow into the other, and so this it can feel like we are tapping into something energetically that we can't see, we don't understand. And even talking to a client, they were saying they also can see the glitching in the matrix. You know, like I'm
Mhm.
walking and I've like I swear I've seen the river shift like from there on the
Mhm.
path to there, like strange glitches, right? And so this is really happening now. But what I kind of picked up was obviously as reality, molecular structure, matter, laws, our physical laws of this universe are starting to shift, and it's like breaking through that veil in order for us to start anchoring more and more of that sort of crystalline fifth dimensional template. We obviously got to, like we talk about, I know it's the same rhetoric, we've got to release that shadow within. And for me, it was about, you've got to just choose to see from another perspective, one that's serving you.
Mhm.
Because yes, we can talk another time about what's fair and not fair and justice, and we can talk about what we tolerate and what we don't tolerate. But always, 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 if we're carrying something that is a low vibrational energy within us, how do we shift that in order to look at it and shift our perspective around it? So that was for me personally. But so what was interesting is that what I got is that the dark agenda is to try to utilize this shifting of reality, physical laws, in a way that they can try to sort of experiment to influence the minds of the collective. And
Mhm.
so that was really interesting to me because so much of our stuff that we were going through is personal, but we also, without being fully aware, we're holding so much for Gaia and the collective.
Mhm.
And so when I kind of asked about that and looked into that, so when the dark are trying to do things now, they don't have the same um they can't um they can't influence things the same way. It's almost like experimental. They're not sure exactly how it's going to play out.
Mhm.
But The greatest outcome for them with this election is that Trump naturally loses, but that will not happen unless
Mhm.
because it cannot happen with where the consciousness is at and just with what's going on with where people's minds and hearts are at.
Mhm.
And so to try to hijack, I don't even know if hijack's the right word, influence votes with an organic stream of shifting, cracking in our reality, but then using it against humanity.
Mhm.
I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know how it lands for you, but I thought it was very fascinating.
Yes, it reminds me what came to my mind just now. Raising children, sometimes you play these silly little games or you navigate. And so here's a story. There would be a carnival that would come to our little town when the children were young, and the huge Ferris wheel would get erected. And then, of course, every child in town could see that Ferris wheel. I want to go to the carnival. I want to go to the carnival, and as parents, you would just try to delay that as long as you could. No, they're not set up quite yet. You would just kind of make these little excuses to divert what they could naturally already see. And isn't that what's been done to all of us?
Mm,
Is
mm,
it's almost like these moving pieces over here, society, the government, whatever, the dark side, AI convinces you you're not seeing what your mind is telling you you're seeing. And it's that discernment that is inside of us. If we do not have our moral compass aligned
mm,
and cannot see the good, because perception is such a huge part in what's going on with all these different realities. If you can't find it within yourself to lean toward what feels good, smells good, looks good,
mm.
seems good, then you're going to be drug into fear, which is scary, low vibration, very unsettling. And it's so difficult to see as a collective in the United States all of this ramp up of what is going to happen in less than 2 weeks. Will we get to an election? Will it? There are so many potentialities that are out there that could happen between now and then, and even thereafter. With whether they certify the election, what will happen to society,
Mm.
because it really is an either or side right now. It's
Very bifurcated, and I totally want to get into that with you because I think it's an important conversation. Or I'm sure we have both perspectives to bring through, which are maybe ultimately I think we would like this to be helpful for people to be able to step into a high state within themselves or question something within themselves that leads them a little bit more back into themselves, and that is the perfect example of what you were saying, this discernment. And I mean, I've been harping on about this, connecting to your higher self. You can call it your higher mind, connecting to God, whatever you want to call it.
mhm,
Connecting to this higher and organic intelligence in order to be guided. I've done courses on it last year, this year, and I've said, as it bifurcates and the shadow comes up more and more and more, it can look for some like your neighbors going through Armageddon. And if you are in that connected space, if you've put in the effort and the work and the consistency to really tap into that higher octave, you're going to always be divinely guided. You're going to just know. I've
mhm,
used the example of a fire coming through your city. Instead of reacting out of a space of fear, just going into that stillness, going, I'm not going to react from chaos or fear. I'm going to just listen to the guidance. There's always going to be a solution presented for those
mhm,
who are self-actualized, calm, aware and awake within themselves. There's always going to be a solution presented. Um,
mhm,
and it's I always say it's the greatest investment you can make in yourself.
mhm,
It's going to become the commodity of gold, especially with AI. And I've
mhm,
been talking about this for a while now. Um, the only way you're going to know is if you go in. It's the only way you're going
mhm,
to know.
mhm,
So I love that, and I hope people feel encouraged to do the work, like meditate. I mean, I started
mhm,
off say 8 or 10 years ago doing walking meditations, and that's how I learned how to work with my
Mhm.
guidance team and to channel and to do all of those cool things. But it took me a lot of time and commitment and dedication, and I
Yes,
did not give
yes.
up, you know?
And, it's becoming, more prevalent in society that it's kind of okay, if you will, to be on the spiritual journey. Obviously, there's a lot of comfort when you're more of a crowd than an individual. And I think that, however this election lands, I think there's going to be a big job to do for either side, in helping love people through
Mm,
the chaos.
mm,
And you know me,
mm.
I'm a big love wins person, but
I love that.
um, whatever it is going to be with regards to the election. We as a people, how are we prepared to respond to that?
Well,
And
I think that's the question.
yeah.
We spoke about this the other day, and I said there's some potentialities for outcomes. One is that Trump wins organically.
Mhm.
Okay, there's going to be a repercussion, a domino,
Yeah.
or a repercussion for that because it's so split. There are a lot of people that don't like him. um,
Right.
One is that he doesn't win through fiddling with the actual voting count. There's going to be an energetic repercussion. One is that
Mhm.
obviously Kamala steps down last minute, or just pulls out, and then there's could be potentially a delay. And so it doesn't actually matter. Well, I mean, it does. It's going to affect whichever timeline plays out is going to have an effect. But either way, whatever plays out, delay, um, Trump winning, Trump not winning, there's going to be, and that's where I was talking to you about the splitting that I see, like the splitting of, and I think
Mhm.
I mentioned it in an interview a couple of months ago, and then when that light was coming on my face, and
Oh, that's right.
I was busy
Mhm.
actually talking at that particular time about how I saw potentialities for and for governance. So for say, let's take America, the US, for example, a splitting within the US. So some saying I want this governance and some saying I want that governance, and then
Mhm.
just a huge, huge shift, no matter what. That's
Right.
that's what I feel and see. Um, and I think what's so important is that what comes through so strongly for me is whether it's chaotic or not chaotic, because potentially the easiest timeline plays out, which would be great. Us holding that higher frequency, that love, being able to ground and move energy through our bodies for the planet, like that's where it's at. That's what we've got to be
Yeah.
doing. So
Yeah.
important.
I think about that emotional aspect of what's going to occur. Inevitably, time is moving forward, so we will get there. It seems to be time is moving faster than ever before. Maybe that's me aging. I don't know.
No, I
they
feel it.
always,
I
they always
feel
say
it.
time goes faster the more you age, but it really does feel like time has sped up. Now, by example, I would ask you, if you were told, 4 years ago when the election happened and played out the way that it did, very unexpectedly for most people, and if you were told back then we were going to have to wait for 4 more years for this to resolve itself, you would have said, no,
No
no, oh
way.
my gosh, we cannot do that. But here we are, 4 years ahead and ready to face this very similar situation again. Where are we going to land? And I think for me personally, that's a lot of that undefined energy where it felt so sure what was going to occur last,
Mm,
4 years ago. And it feels very undefined right now. And it's kind of exciting if you can see it from that perspective, because undefined means unlimited potential,
potential.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
Hmm.
I also think that there's been a very necessary maturing phase that's happened for a lot of conscious and awake or awakened. I don't like some of these terms. Souls
I know.
that are on this path, let's say that, on this journey of inner alchemy and self. What I really do feel is a massive maturing, which is, like the longer I've been doing the work I do, the more I realize, the more I know, the less I know, and I'm not meant to try to see the outcome of the future for me particularly.
Right.
Like that's not the point. The point is to be really in the now moment, right? That is
Hmm.
what it's all about. So we do all that shadow work, we work on our fears, we work on our traumas, and just releasing them so that we can be not pulled out of our body, we can be so present in the now moment. And I think the more we're in the now moment, the more we feel time shifting, like you're saying. I don't think it has to do with
Hmm.
age. For sure, time is completely different to what it was
Hmm.
years ago. And so when we're in that now moment and we are so self-actualized in that space, we are we are saying, I'm not proclaiming to know exactly how it's going to go because we're not meant to. We're
So,
just meant to hold a specific sine wave.
mhm.
That's
Agree.
maturing. That's maturing. 4 years ago, I'm sure there was lots of chatter online about psychic prediction this, psychic prediction that. And I see that side slowed down a bit. And it's like, great, because actually we're trying to control an outcome. We're trying to, we've been pulled out of our body into a future that hasn't happened yet. And it is important to talk about potentialities because then it's in the field of consciousness and awareness. But to have the need to know exactly how something's going to go, for
Yeah.
me, it so defeats the purpose of being here on this earth.
Living life. Living life
Yeah,
and
yeah.
being excited about, the potentials. Emotionally, I feel like no matter what happens, there are going to be this, a group of people that will be very distraught
Yes,
about the
absolutely.
outcome. And, I think in my mind, I'm just kind of shifting to that maybe triage kind of after the events, what are we going to do? And how are we going to, as a society, be kind or humble, either way, whatever side of the fence you sit on. We still collectively live on this planet, you know, um, and we have to find a way to be kind. And I'm looking forward for that to that opportunity, but I'm not sure in my mind how that's going to play out. But I'm looking forward to the challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna navigate it like a boss because I know you. Kindness is your everything. Um, I think there's so many of us that were thinking in 2020, 2021, oh, it's all going to come out. There was a lot of stuff around the whole
Yeah.
EBS, and I was like, but that doesn't make sense because we're actually supposed to have an awakening within ourselves, go through ascension within ourselves. It's a choice. It's a soul choice, right? And I think a lot of people were really talking about the outcome and kindness thing. They were waiting for someone to come along and go, oh, look, I told you so. We were right because we knew.
Hmm.
Again, that's a separation energy. We get stuck in it.
Hmm.
It's a judgment, it's a separation. And again, I think this is what we've been moving through and
Hmm.
a lot of the hardship we've all been through in our own personal ways. Um, let's call it hard challenges, has been really there for us to help us mature
Hmm.
into a much more grounded light worker, I
Do
think.
you do you think that potentially the lesson for us at this time is realizing the fluidness of reality? And I think that that could be very well be a lesson that many, many are having to learn right now is that although you hear the white hats are in charge, this is a pantomime, the battle's been won. I mean, ultimately, I do believe God, creator, source, is going to win the overall war, but these individual battles can be very sketchy at times. So, like, maybe our lesson to be learned, if you resonates with you, is like not getting caught up on having to know what the next chapter is. Um, that's the beauty of reading the book.
Well, that's exactly what we were just saying, being in the now moment,
Mm-hmm.
being in it's a control thing, wanting to know the outcome, having a higher awareness of potentiality so that you know what antidotes or solutions you can step into for something
Hmm.
very real. Like, for example, if there is an inversion of natural law, so it's being messed with on some
Hmm.
um it was always hard to find the right word. So let's just say a dark agenda to invert some natural law, which could potentially lead to some weather disruption, just really terrible weather disruptions, which can, let's be very honest, cause a lot of pain and suffering. But like I'm saying, even if you're stuck in one of those situations, if
Hmm.
you're not driven by fear, that's exactly how this inorganic, this artificial stuff works. It uses our unawareness and fear against us. So I think it's definitely a huge part of us navigating our now moment to now moment on this journey with this
Hmm.
particular election. And I don't see that all the white hats are in control. I know that's a popular narrative. You and I have spoken about it.
Hmm.
I don't believe it's all a pantomime, and that's just waiting to play itself out. From one perspective, yes, because
Hmm.
if you look at the timelines for New Earth, the singularity point, that's why they say the war is won. So, from a higher dimensional perspective, and this is where people need to understand the merging and collapsing and the bridging of physical and non physical, it's true from the perspective of it's one, but how we get there is still undetermined because there's so many
Hmm.
potentialities and we haven't won yet, or the light has not fully anchored so that no service to self souls can incarnate on
Right.
our planet. So there's a lot
Right.
of cleanup that's happening. The guy is cleaning herself up on a physical. She's absorbed so much trauma and shock, and then the dark still, from what I see, have some ability to influence and control. They're working with dark magicians. So um, it always becomes, the more you go into the quantum, it becomes the answer is both yes and no. it's not it's
Yes.
not it's not yes or no, it's both.
So I know that last week we talked about Elon Musk a little bit,
Yeah.
and he's taken a very active role in financially donating to, Trump's campaign and campaigning as well, having different rallies at different places, different times than Trump is having. So he's very actively has publicly taken this stance of if we don't, this is a very pivotal moment for us. You know,
Yeah.
our country is going to look differently depending on the outcome of this election. Either way, either
Yeah.
way.
It's so
But
funny because I just saw on Instagram this morning, I saw a little short or reel, and it was like Elon Musk talking to Tucker Carlson, and he was saying,
yes,
like, I'm fucked if Trump doesn't win. Like, when am I going to jail and am I going to see my kids again? Like, it was so
yeah,
funny, like the humor that he brought to it. I thought it was quite brilliant.
right, 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 right. He on that particular interview, he was talking about being sued for discriminating against employing illegal aliens, and yet at the SpaceX in particular where he's being sued for, there is a law on the books already that you cannot employ illegal aliens in a government type entity like that. And so the conflict there within itself is just a prime example of, I think, what we're dealing with on a massive, massive level. It just doesn't make sense. How could
Yeah,
we be at a place in time where it just doesn't pass the straight face test? Like, how complicated can this be?
I know, and that's again another such an interesting conversation because I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like talking about the shadow and the AI, and through the jabs and the food and the air and the water, and how we set up a
Mhm.
matrix system that's designed to use us against ourselves, or to keep us dumbed down and sick and ill and and essentially
Mhm.
enslavement. We've kind of consented to all of this along the way. And this person was like, oh, it just makes me too depressed to think that the world could be such a dark place, and I get it, and it's like, oh no, we all buggered, and it's that if I have to step into that knowledge, it's just too much. And
Mhm.
I said, well, on the contrary, it's always been like that. It's just been hidden
Mhm.
in the shadow. And so, yeah, and then they were like, yeah, but the world's such a crazy place. And I was like, of course it's going to look, as the shadow comes up, it is going to look like it's getting worse.
Yes.
It's going to look
Yes.
like it's getting worse, but it's always been like that. You just didn't know. You just didn't know. And now the exciting thing is you're getting awareness around it. So you get to choose differently. You get to make different choices. You get to, and just through that, it's all about consciousness. This is just consciousness going on an experience of experiencing itself. And so as the awareness is key to everything, because you suddenly go, oh, I'm not going to make that choice because I'm aware of this.
Mhm.
And so much our planet has just operated and we've blindly been whatever we've been told we followed, and now there's this big army of beautiful
Mhm.
light warriors who are like, well, actually I'm aware of X, Y, and Z. So it's
Exactly.
not a bad thing, but I do
Mhm.
understand for some individuals how it does can look scary
Mhm.
and like, well, it's not getting any better, it's getting worse, but I'm here to
Well,
say it has to.
what came to my mind just now was I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but ever so often in life you get this like urge to do this massive cleaning of your house, and you just kind of literally start in one room and then you bring like stuff that you need to throw away, give away, and I don't know, for me personally it ends up being the kitchen. Everything kind of comes to the kitchen, and then if you run out of energy before you finish that agenda, you can look at that kitchen and go, holy crap, like it looks like a
Yeah.
bomb went off in here. But,
Yeah.
really, that's kind of what we're going through. We're going through this cleansing, this upgrading. We're navigating towards this abundance, but it's inherently going to look ugly until we get there.
Such a
And
great analogy. I love that. I love your analogy.
yeah,
It's so good.
yeah,
It's a nail on the head, nail on the head. So it's not to turn a blind eye, it's not to turn a
yeah.
blind eye to the atrocities. I mean,
Well,
really,
and it's important to realize as well, you've got to keep doing the work. If you do run out of energy, you're going to be stuck in that chaos, and you've just got to dig deep and continue to do the work,
and not in
even
a
on self.
and not in a way like I just want to clarify because some people will say to do the work it's just never ending or yeah,
Right.
like and it's exhausting. It's not. The work is just
Mm.
awareness. It's just going, hey, let me stop and
Right.
it's a rewiring of the program, the neural network in the brain. It's just bringing awareness to. It's
Right.
actually fun. It's actually fun to be in a situation like you're in a situation and you have this way of, let's just say. Your bin breaks all over the floor and your usual way to deal with it is, oh, for shit sakes, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
This is the thing that pushed me over the edge. I'm going to sit down and have a big cry and I'm
Hmm.
a real victim to my reality and stay stuck
Hmm.
in that energy because it's pushed you over. Or your bin breaks and you have a thought like, oh my gosh, this is overload, and then you let that you and then you think, oh, I could check into a little hospital to sleep for a few days, have a giggle, clean it up,
Yes.
and move along. You know what I mean?
Right.
How long are you
Well,
stuck
and
in that?
you can't help but remind people that the higher the vibration, the better it feels. So, like, yes, the work can seem daunting, but truly, the reward is how much better you feel when you just
Freedom.
keep doing the work. And it
Freedom.
gets you out of that lower vibrational space of that chaos.
Well, that's what I also have said for a long time. I've said that the doing the work doesn't mean that we're not going to take out the trash or you don't if you have a
Right,
baby you have to like, change a poo nappy or whatever. It
right.
means that your ability to move through the lesser, more enjoyable physical aspects of being here, whatever it is, a
Hmm.
conflict with a friend, a partner, um, illness, or whatever it is, your ability to move through it just gets so much better and
Hmm.
it's so much easier and life becomes so much more enjoyable and you become so much freer and you're just able to hold that joy for
Hmm.
through loads of potentially hard situations. So I know it's important, it's very important to do
Hmm.
the work, but I think it's also got a negative label when we say do the work, do the work, do the work,
That's true.
yeah,
Yes.
so it's nice to actually talk about it. What does it mean to do the work? What does it
I
mean?
don't know. I'm hardwired backwards than many people. I don't know. I've never in my life have I understood that concept of, there's a million one-liners out there, like no gain without pain,
Bullshit
like
program.
why? Like
What?
who made up that rule, I mean, like but then it just kind of circles right back to your perception.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you perceive it to be hard, if you perceive it to be worth it, not worth it. Yeah, it's all that
Infinite,
choice.
infinite truths that hold truth. It's just your perception that's going to either serve you or
No,
take away from you, for sure.
I- absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Don't fear
Starla,
the pain.
no, and sometimes it's necessary. It's a catalyst
Mm,
for growth. I know that very well
mm,
within my own journey, that the hardest things
mm.
I've been through have been the things that have really catapulted me into
True.
when we choose not to do the victim thing. What do you see? What are the timelines you're seeing for the next couple of weeks?
Well, gosh, it does seem to be going so fast right now. I think that, we have these for me personally, what I've been feeling for a good long while, it's not so much this election or what's going to occur. Not really even the inauguration or however that plays itself out. I really believe the beauty is going to come shortly thereafter. And I don't know. For me, it feels like towards the end of the year, into next year, it just feels like things will start to allow people to breathe. And,
Hmm.
you know,
So I hear you. As we were just saying earlier, whichever way it goes, it's about the after effect because there is going to be an after effect no matter what,
right,
which is going to catalyze some shift or change out of the last 4 years,
right,
no matter what.
right, right. The unknown of getting, what we're going to get, we're just going to have to be patient and let it play itself out. Although for me, again, personally, I feel like this is the tragedy in believing that this is a pantomime, because it does allow people to sit back and, I mean, what has the saying been for quite some time? Sit back, eat your popcorn. You still
Sure.
have a responsibility to plug in and give it your energy. And if you detach and unplug, you run the risk of not being able to say I had a part in it. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, and I do get that perspective where, and I think it's been said by some people very genuinely with good
Yeah.
intention. But what I do see is that again, we know that there's a dark influence and agenda in the spiritual community, in the truth community, and what for me, what I saw was what also just made people feel like they were elite in the way they knew truth that others didn't, and it created it was a slowing down process because I've been saying it for years, and I'll continue to say it. This is an individual. The individual must go through ascension. Each individual
Yes.
starts to do that process. We start to pull the earth back up. So I keep saying the micro to the macro, but it starts individually within sovereignty, pulling your energy back, realizing that you are the creator
Mm,
being, understanding your holographic reality, etc., and how we create based on our thoughts, emotions, and heart coherence. And so it was from another perspective, a very cleverly orchestrated way to get people who were waking up to also, it's a victim savior. Someone's going to come and save
mhm.
us mentality. So, all this
Right.
money's going to come, or the aliens are going to come down and save us. And while it is true there's galactic support, a lot of these things get misinterpreted
Hmm.
because there's a level of interpretation to whatever channels and mediums are working with in terms of visuals or even telepathic information. So it's again, it has its place, and from one perspective it's true, but it definitely did, and I think people got very frustrated and gave up.
Hmm.
So we don't want that,
Right.
we
Right.
want people to feel like they can stay on this path, because you're going to need patience. You're going to need
Right.
resilience to stay on this path.
I've long said you only know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. Um, and even as silly as that little saying sounds, it has always kept me um, with a desire to stay plugged in. I, potentially things could be amazing. And so don't detach in fear of things being awful. And so um, I think everyone has their part to play. And I think that because people see things from their own perspective, I think people need to hear things in different ways. And so I sometimes feel like I don't disparage anyone out there, just genuinely with full intention of doing the right thing, the best thing, the good thing. So how, and hallelujah for those types of people that will do that, to be able to speak to someone who needs to hear it in that fashion. So no disparagement at all to anyone out there who has a perspective, because if you're just trying to guide and lead others with the intention of good, I think it'll pan out the way it's supposed to be anyway.
Absolutely. And that's the good, that's the way the discernment comes in. If someone's intention is good, it doesn't even be that they're right or wrong. It's where the intention is.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
um, I think people are really learning how to feel into that. And and all of these things that we've gone through, perceived as negative, positive, are all teaching, all teaching. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
I know we'll continue.
I
Um,
love it when you say there are many truths in a truth, and you can even take negative energy and see where the positivity can come from that, and I love that because it does put the power back in. I think a lot of people fear like not having that voice, like we talked about last week, not having that voice be heard. And I feel like, if you can just take hold of believing that you do have a choice
yeah.
always. Um,
Oh, absolutely. There is always a choice, even if it's just the way in which you're choosing to perceive something
mhm,
that's going to take from you or serve you. There is a choice, always.
mhm. I'm excited though. I'm excited for these next, couple of weeks to come to fruition. And I think, for myself, I just feel like I'm, I mean, I'm grateful for the skills that I have acquired working with you. And I love it when you say we started out clients and we became friends. That's, I feel like, how collectively we're having an impact on Gaia.
Mm.
And so, I mean, I was just thinking the other day, I don't know what you and I do next, other than I realized on your website that I can do a master class with you. And I'm like, oh, I want to improve my skill. I want to continue to figure out how to navigate my own energy in the direction that I want it to go in, and be receptive of whatever the gifts are that, are allocated to me.
Yeah, it's so beautiful and it's so exciting. And I just want to say it's not me being a healer or being anything. It's just
No,
it's just a container holder, right? For you to
right.
discover that inner world. And sometimes we need a little help. We need someone to come along and say, "Hey, I've got you. Let me hold you," so that you can discover this world because it's not easy. It's not easy.
No.
There's so much, we're programmed with self-doubt from the day we're born. So, um, yeah,
Don't you think it's like let's just say it's like crossing a river. And if you've had the luxury to cross the river prior to me, and you just simply turn around and offer your hand, oh, I know there's a rock right there under the water. You can't see it, but it's okay. Step here. And you
yeah.
hold your hand out. I mean, you're a beautiful guide that way. And I think as we all ascend, we owe it to society to turn around and offer that hand to someone else who just hasn't crossed the river yet.
You know, you have to write a book with your great analogies. I'm sorry, like little one-liners, like little pearls of wisdom. I love it so much. They're so good. And I
Thank you for that.
100% agree. I did want to say though, because I'm going to have to run soon to go and fetch little man. I did want to say, I was driving and before I started my walking meditation, like I'm very honest about where I'm at. I said it's been a tough time for me. The energies, if we look at the astrology, if we just feel into it for ourselves, it's very intense time for us personally
Mhm.
with whatever it is we're navigating, the election stuff aside. And I was like, I just felt like who needs help? Like who needs help?
Mhm.
And I'm going to just say it in this video, I'm happy to set up by donation or even free if you can't afford anything. Sort of let's get together. Who needs support? It was actually support was the
Right.
word. Who feels like they need support right now? You can comment on
Right.
the video. I will create some kind of link and we'll do some kind of workshop because I feel for me at the moment, group work is so powerful.
It
That
is.
that collective energy. And I know I run workshops and stuff like that, but I was just like, it's like just hey, who needs support right now? Like
Exactly.
if I get enough people saying me, like I'm just so happy to show up. And as a group, we create, and then I'll help hold the container for that. So I wanted
And I
to,
would love to help you with that as well. So I'd be more than happy to help you with that because I feel like it's where we're headed and we have to gather our resources and collectively move. And
yeah, and work in community because there's so much
mhm,
power in community and like-minded
mhm.
individuals. And it's not about me or anyone else saving you or any of those things, but going, hey, let's show up. And if you need some support, like you said, I've crossed the river a few times. Um,
Mhm.
how can I be of service? So
Absolutely. You
um,
are a beautiful, beautiful soul. I'm so grateful for you.
oh, right back at you, girl. Right back at you. So what's the date today? Today's the 23rd, so maybe even on the 31st, or something along those lines. Um, just
I
I'm gonna
can't
do an
even imagine
Instagram
what,
video. I'm gonna do an Instagram video
yep.
and be like, hey, who needs support right now? Shall I set
Yep.
something up?
Mhm,
Um, it's always nice for an energy exchange, but I totally get that there's people out there that can't afford and want to do
mhm,
these things. So
mhm.
I actually thought donations nice, and if you can't afford anything, jump on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm. I
so
can't imagine what the energy level is going to be like in another week. So I'm super
I know,
excited
I know.
because I feel like we have this opportunity to harness that
Yes,
energy.
yes.
And
And to do light work together because the more we move
yes,
energy through our
yes.
body, there's a collective effect. So absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yay. So we will meet up again next week. Anyone who wants to says I need support. Just let us know in the comments and we'll see if
Mhm,
we can set something up. And yeah, just loving connecting with you, loving our energetic casualty
mhm.
chats.
Yeah, and I wanted to just quickly express the gratitude for the people that did reach out, whether that be personally or, on YouTube. It it's always so amazing to see people just see things from their own perspective. And there is so much good out there. Don't be afraid, people. There's so much good out there.
It's exciting. There's so much love. There's so much connectedness. There's so
Hmm.
much goodness. And
Hmm.
I think that is probably one of the most important messages right now. Like, despite what you
Yes.
might be going through or what might be looking like, it's actually good. There's a good,
Yes.
beautiful
Reach out and
thing.
grab a hand.
Well,
Much love to you. I hope
okay,
you have
my
an
darling.
amazing day.
Love
Mm,
you and love to everyone who's watching. Hope you were able to take something that was constructive and brought something into your life. I will chat
sounds
to
good.
you soon. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.